Do large language models have access to the direct truth?
I don't know what large language models are.
Is there a way for me to stop feeling like a bad boss?
Yes, but it's not a prescriptive thing.
Hi, Kapil. I don't know if this is really a question. I'm just perplexed. I thought I would share it. Maybe you might understand if anyone does. I'm just perplexed. I have an elite, perhaps generational talent. It's been said to me by many who I think are qualified that I have a legendary ability in music, and I'm perplexed because, I have nothing but time, nothing but opportunity, and I worked for it. I achieved, really otherworldly results in my career and financial endeavors, and the motivation that fueled that was, I thought, the desire to be free from worldly and societal nonsense. Freedom financially and freedom with my time and freedom from any obligations so that I can allow for complete devotion to art. And, I don't know, it's been 3 years now since I accomplished that financial freedom. And I don't feel any pull. I miss the days when I was a child and a teenager, and I just truly loved creating music, and I was like a willing slave to my unending inspiration. And I loved the learning, I loved perfecting, and I have what I think are incredible ideas, and I just don't have that pull at all. And I don't know, I'm perplexed. I don't have a question. It's not really.
Well, what you're saying is that the pull that you don't have the interest in the music anymore. Is that what you're saying?
I mean, it's there. Like, the idea comes, the inspiration comes. I hear it in my head. It's makes me cry. And then I don't have the pull to just find myself at the microphone, on the keys, at the guitar strings, and just there's nothing. I don't know why there's no motivation.
So you don't have the passion for it anymore. Is that what you're saying? I'm not sure what you're saying. What
I think what I'm saying is that I expected myself to have that. That's what I was dying for so long. When I was working like a dog and had no time and had no obligation, or had just loaded obligations, it was like I'm dying for any free time to work on these things. And yeah, it's now I have none of those things, and I can't. I don't want to force my. I know I could. Like, I know there's a part of me I could force myself to do it. But if there's one thing I've learned, it's that.
Or are you saying that? I'm still confused. Are you saying that you had the opportunities and the ability to perform and all those things, and now those things are not there? Is that what you're saying? And you're looking for them, or what do you spell it out? Second grade level, spell it out.
Okay. I always felt I'm an artist at heart, and meanwhile I was busy accomplishing financial endeavors that had nothing to do with my art. And my motivation to.
Okay, so your financial, what you're saying is the opportunities and the financial freedom and all those things, they came from something besides the music, is what you're saying.
They came from, they had nothing to do with the music.
You have to be very clear when you speak in terms of like what, because the whole time I was thinking all your opportunities were from the music. So
I see.
You have to be very clear when you're precise with work choices. So you're saying that the freedom and the opportunity that you have were outside of music, and now those things are able to fund your music, but now you don't have the interest in music anymore. What you're saying.
Yeah, that's about right. And it perplexes me that I don't understand, because the motivation felt so real at that time. Obviously it was to deliver the results that it did. I mean, I just made money investing and managing. I started small. It was, it was not the stock market. That's what it was, and it was just that's where I made money. I worked, had my money, invested it masterfully, and did things that no one would believe. That's the truth. And my motivation for that was I wanted to be free from it all. I wanted to not have to do that anymore. I didn't want to have to go to an office, didn't have to work, and I didn't want to have to worry about money, so that I have free time, so that I have no interruptions and no obligations, and I can just devote the rest of my life to music and art and just allow it to be whatever it's going to be. And I'm allowing it to be whatever it's going to be. And 3 years later, I've done nothing. I'm just perplexed, and I'm trying to.
I think the perplexing is because I don't think you know what you really want, and to know what you really want is not a small. To know what you really want is oftentimes not a very trivial or small thing. So I think you on the one hand, there would be a thing that you think that you should want, and that's fine. But I don't think that you know what you really want.
Yeah, I think that's right. I've been through a lot of cycles where, if you had asked me 15 years ago, I would have said I want to be a world famous artist. And as time has gone by, and as I've lived life, it's become far less about entertaining or interesting anybody else, or playing for anybody else, or creating for anybody else. But
have you been looking into truth for a while, or just for a short time?
Looking into it, I think it's always been there. I've only started recognizing it and sort of labeling it as looking into truth for, let's call it 6 or 7 years. But that's.
And then how long have you been following my work?
Yeah, well, you know what, the truth, I remember finding your work maybe 10 or 12 years ago, and it rubbed me the wrong way. I was like, oh, this guy's insane. And then funny enough, now you're the only person that I would bother even reading or considering listening to.
So there's a reason why I asked that question. And the reason why I asked that question, and I can't make any conclusions from it because I don't presume things about what someone is feeling. Yeah, that's up to them to describe. The reason why I asked that question is because truth hits people in different ways, and there's no predicting for a given individual how truth is going to hit them and at what angle it's going to hit them. There's no predicting that. It is different for everyone. And so there's a very specific reason why I asked you the question about how long have you been looking into truth? How long have you been following my work? The reason I asked that question is because oftentimes, and one of the many ways that truth can hit a person potentially is that he begins to see through some things. He begins to see through the opaqueness and perhaps the shallowness of some things. And I'm not saying that your creativity in music is shallow. Not at all. I'm not saying that at all. In fact, I think talent and devotion to art, I think, is central to the human, to a human life. So, I mean, that's how much I value it. But what I'm saying is that different human beings have different DNAs, and different human beings are at different levels of the evolutionary, place, right? And so for one person, like, truth could hit him in a certain way that he begins to, or his insides, his interiority seems to resonate with truth above other things which used to resonate with him before. And I'm not at all saying this is what's happening with you. I don't psychoanalyze people. I don't do all that nonsense. I'm saying I'm very careful with my words. This is one way in which it can manifest for a given individual who doesn't have to be you. But when you say these things, this tends to come to mind. And so this is a possibility. It doesn't mean it is this case. It is a possibility. And so for some people, truth can increase their ambition, and in other people, truth can take away their ambition, because they're like, well, what's the point of anything? And then I just want to know what the secrets of the universe are, And so, like, once again, the angle at which truth hits a given individual, it's a very, very, very powerful thing, and it you cannot underestimate the power of it's a tsunami and a tornado times a million, and what it can do to this on a cellular level of a human being is unpredictable and powerful, and so yeah, what you're describing can happen. I'm not saying it did happen. I'm saying it can happen. That's what came to mind when you were mentioning these things.
I appreciate that. It resonates. At least certainly the part about just the magnitude of that impact. I'm unrecognizable from 10 years ago, except for when I make an effort to be recognizable for people. But I know I'm unrecognizable from that time. I think I just, I enjoy it. I mean, I enjoy when a great idea comes into my heart. I enjoy that. I get excited about the idea. I enjoy how it feels and how it sounds in my head. And, that in itself almost feels complete. It's almost enough. But, yeah, I mean, I don't know, maybe there's something there that, maybe that's what that looks like for me, is that just having that in my heart and in my head for myself and experiencing that great idea musically is enough.
It's very interesting. I mean, this really is like another dimension. This really is like the cutting edge of human. This is really the cutting edge of the human journey, which is not being explored anywhere on this planet. How truth hits a person on the fundamental physiologic, neurological, cellular level is so the implications of that, which are manifested by the stories such as yours, the implications of that are so profound oftentimes that you just can't explain them. And that's why I don't say that anyone should follow the truth or read my work, because number one, I know that it's a plutonium bomb, and nobody wants to walk into a plutonium bomb. Now, I'm making it sound negative because sometimes it can be negative for a given individual. It can change the way that a person is. They can go from being a materialist to someone that even the monks would idolize. And there's no way. Once again, there's no way to predict. But I find that truth is the ultimate art. Even the talents that a human being is given on a materialistic and relativistic scale, the talents that a human being is given are pure and natural and truth. But I think even beyond, but that's just on the materialistic and human domain. But even beyond that is the ultimate art of truth, and there's nothing higher. And so what I feel is that there's ancient stories of some master sitting in the mountains, and this person who's been maybe for eons on the verge of falling over into so-called self-realization, happens by him, right? And the master says like a sentence, and the guy becomes enlightened. I mean, whatever the word enlightened, I don't want to go that wrong. And someone would say, well, that's just a sentence. How can he? Well, that's because where the guy was, right? That's where that person who was walking towards that master, that's where he was on the verge, right? And it just took a breath to knock him over the edge into that sphere. And that's what I mean by human beings are at a different level of evolution. And that's why it can't be judged as you're in a bad level or you should seek truth. That's a judgment against where one is. And that's insane that you can't do that. They didn't choose to be here or there. So everyone's on their own journey to find their ultimate home, right? And so it can absolutely transform someone. And so within someone, I don't think anyone can really know where they are on that journey until they come face to face with a truth or several truths or a source of truth. Because then I'm not going to say how they react, because that would be behavioral. How their interiority reacts to that exposure to truth reveals, not like as a judgment reveal, but reveals to themselves where they actually are on that scale, and without any hierarchical like judgment or anything. And And so oftentimes the ones who are fairly evolved into that level of truth from past eons or past lives, however you want to say it, oftentimes they are like very amenable and reachable and susceptible to truth, and their interiority responds in a very dramatic way because they themselves are perhaps at a more evolved level. That, like, once again, I'm not saying you or somebody, I'm just saying that's on a bird's eye view what oftentimes tends to happen.
It's kind of like water sitting at 99 degrees and then the one
That's
line
exactly
said,
right.
right?
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. That's my point. And actually, and people, I would say that people who are like that, whether there's 5 or 9 or 742, whatever, small number, but people who are like that, actually, oftentimes, their greatest art and their greatest pursuit, and their perhaps the best way they can spend their remainder of their life is in the devotion to truth. And that is dictated not by me. That is dictated by the visceral and dramatic reaction of their interiority to having been exposed to truth. That is what is dictated. That's what's revealed to them by themselves.
Yeah, this is why I say, like, it's not, it's, 3 years is not, one could say it's not a long time, one could say it's a very long time. I feel that it's a very long time. And I say this, I don't say that I'm disappointed, right? I don't say that I'm upset or disappointed that I'm not pursuing these things. I don't, it's actually more interesting to me to get to the bottom of, well, what was that all for? What was that incredible motivation to come to this point, and then to see yourself, you have this expectation or this idea that, of course, it was all for enabling art. And then you come and you reach this point and you sit and you say, that's not at all what's happening. I'm not disappointed. I'm not, I wouldn't even say I'm bothered by it. But I would say I'm perplexed and not, and perhaps that's just it, is that, I'm almost more interested in getting to the bottom of why that's the case. Understanding that.
And a lot of your perplexing situation, perhaps is even related to being perplexed as to why you're not disappointed.
Being perplexed as to, that was part of it. And then, I was able to understand because, if there's one thing that I've understood so far, it's that the magic lies in watching where you find yourself pulled, like where
100%.
you're like
100%. That's true.
So if I'm not doing something, I'm not perplexed as to it, and it's. I allow myself to say that's okay. I'm not gonna wonder why I'm not disappointed about something or I'm excited about something. I just, whatever it is, I'll just let that be and enjoy it. But not it's just baffling to me. I mean, it feels like a childhood dream come true. Like, really, like someone gave me a magic wand, and at any age, you ask me, here's your magic wand, and this is what I would have created for myself. And I even, I understand how my motivations have changed. There was a time when creating music was about doing the impossible, creating something and saying, I could have never imagined I could have created that. I could have never imagined I could have produced something like that. And then as you get a little older, and of course the adulation and attention you get from it is a nice motivator, and gives you confidence, it gives you support, it gives you, and then it creates a bunch of falseness. So if I just fast forward through all that, I go, there are some artists who I have come across, and I can count them on one hand, and you could cut off 2 fingers and I could still count them. So it's not a lot, but they're so genuine, and they're so unlike anything that I've ever seen. That they resonate with me musically, they resonate with me personally, and you won't call yourself a poet, but I would call you a poet, or at least your work poetry, and so when I feel that resonating so much, and then don't see like anything at all. Like it's baffling to me that, you know.
And then I think this is a wonderful example. It's one thing for me to say something, and it's something else for examples to show up and present themselves in real living color. And this is why I always say it isn't about all those things like the self-help and all those things. Those are conscious, intentional, effortful behavior modification. And that's complete garbage, nonsense, stupidity, idiocy. Because as you are describing here, what you are describing is what your interiority has done to you, irrespective and regardless and despite what you consciously wanted. And that is how things work. That is the truth, which the experts don't understand, and they never will. It is what a person desires on a visceral level, unbeknownst to him.
Right.
It is where his interiority leads him, not where he, by way of manipulation and forceful behavioral modification, tries to lead himself, which is nonsensical. And that's why one is best off, especially in these situations, to listen to his interiority. Because what I find is perhaps the greatest tragedy is not for a person not to move towards truth in this lifetime. What I find is perhaps the greatest tragedy is the one who perhaps has the readiness for it, one who perhaps has the evolution for it, one who perhaps has the DNA for it, and them, that person specifically, not pursue truth because they have a real chance.
Yeah, that is the greatest tragedy.
Good luck.
Thank you.
I'm grateful to be here. Thank you so much for your work. I found your work about 1 year back. So at this time in my life, I had just finished completing something that I was chasing after for about a year prior to that. And at this point in my life, I was kind of in immense pain and suffering because that point, just before I got the success, I realized the emptiness of it in the sense that I could see that the motivations that the people around me were driven by was fundamentally different from what I wanted. And the very last mile of that effort, I had to kind of push myself through despite all resistance from my interiority, so to speak. And I think your work just came after that. And it kind of like, I was drawn to it so much that from like trying to hard work my way through life, which I was doing prior to reading your work. Now I became like, I was spending the entire day reading your discourses, basically. Okay, and as the months have passed, I find myself more and more interested in the truth. And so much so that, like I purchased a Direct Truth podcast recently, and I had to like stop myself from purchasing any more because it was just kind of like, I was going to lose all my money kind of. So I had to stop myself from doing that. And that too, I had to kind of realize that I already had what I needed in some sense. So the place I find myself right now is that I kind of see that in the world, like I want something that is beyond the world. I don't want anything that is in the world, but I also recognize that the practical thing around me is for me to kind of do what is in front of me, so to speak, and not try to escape into some mystical fantasy about what could be. So I find myself kind of going back and forth here because I wish for something in the beyond. So if I could find something that could just take me there and it could not break, what I mean by that is it would not be an illusion that I chase, but something that is permanent. But every time I find myself in that phase, I always lose it because I recognize that it's kind of a pleasure chase in some sense. Like I get caught up in the images that my mind presents instead of the essence of it. And like I don't see any practical, like there's no I see the emptiness of things. So it doesn't seem like there's nothing to do as such in this life in some sense, except to realize truth. But I also see that if I don't go along with what is practical in the world, I don't know where I'll end up because I just don't know what I will do. And so I'm kind of afraid to some extent, but I think I'm not even afraid now. But I just don't know what is there. Like, so I would appreciate
You don't know what is where.
Like, I don't see anything in the future in some sense, like I have no idea what will happen next. And that takes my mind from...
What do you mean you don't know? I'm not sure what you're saying. You got to be very clear. I don't know what'll happen next. Do you mean like the events of your life? What do you mean like no one knows what will happen next?
Like, okay, so I mean, like there is a basic level of practicality I need to subscribe to in order to get things moving in the world.
What do you mean by that? You cannot speak in code. Okay. You have to spell it out. What do you mean by get things moving in the world? Okay. Word choice.
So, like I'm a student, right? So in the sense, I'm in college. I'm like a graduate student, so I need to work on my research / publish papers in order to get my career moving forward.
Yes. So by that, what you mean, and that's what I thought you meant, but I wanted to clarify. By that, like you get things moving in the world, you mean that you have to find a way to make a living, more or less. Okay. And that is true. That's priority number one. You have to make a living to be able, if you want to live in the world and you don't want to go live in a cave, then you have to make a living and you have to feed yourself and, whatever family you end up having. And that absolutely is 100% true.
But I don't know how far I will go. So
what does that mean?
So
I don't know how far I will go. Spell it out.
Okay. So I'll give you like in a practical sense, I almost spent half my money on Direct Route podcasts. So like my desire for the truth is great. And I think I have verified that for myself. There's no doubt about that. Now the question is, like, what does that look like practically, right? So do I get do I look for an exit in some sense? Do I look for an opportunity which can take me somewhere else completely?
So I think the problem with human beings arise on many levels. And one of the levels in which the problems with human beings arise is when they ask the question, what should they do? Mm-hmm. Because no one can tell them that. And there's no right answer. And so they have to, that's what I was talking to the previous individual about. A human being's interiority speaks to him. And oftentimes it is that interiority which is perhaps their only guide. And I'm not saying it's correct or incorrect or whatever it is, but I think to ask an external agency what is the right thing to do, or that they should pursue this or that, I think is a very dangerous game, because anything can be a reasonable answer to that question. I think you should stay in school. I think you should follow the truth. I think you should do X, Y, and Z. Anybody can say anything. So there's no answer to that as to what you should be doing, because there are many different paths, and it would be an affront and a crossing the line into your sovereignty to say that this is what you should do, or that's what you should do.
No, I think to clarify, I'm 100% with you on that. But I think, so what ends up happening is that like in trying to find the untruths in the world, like I tend to go down that rabbit hole way too often. And my mind tends to go there. The first instinct is always to go there. Like what's the garbage, so to speak, in the situation. So what ends up happening is even the like small kernel of truth that may exist in the situation tends to be overlooked because my mind's attention is devoted to the finding of the untruth. And now this is a limitation on my part because, like I've come with an assumption that I have to find untruth, right? And that itself is holding me back. But like the mind gets pulled there no matter what I do. So like I can't stop that. And I keep going there again and again. And I really wish I would be able to kind of zone it out completely and never have to look at it again. And
everyone's journey is different, and everyone's interiority takes them on their own unique path, and everyone struggles with this or that, and where it takes you and how it takes you is something that is uniquely your own. But I will say that I think there's a blessing in those who, for whatever reason, happen to resonate with truth, because it's not very many people. It's a very, very small number of the population. And wherever that takes them and however it takes them there is something that cannot be predicted. And I don't think that it should be necessarily manhandled either. So it's just a journey which unfolds, and one finds themselves going where they go according to where their interiority takes them. So
I've come to your work recently, and before then I was following all the self-improvement stuff, and like I really struggled with it a lot and I felt really bad about it. But now recently I've come to your work and I stopped doing that stuff, but I still feel like most of my time slips by. I recently I thought about it. I was like, how many seconds are in a day? And it's some 50,000. And I just feel like all of it just disappears. And I'm like always thinking about stuff. I don't want to just think all the time and be pulled away by compulsions and addictions and stuff and worrying. I know you're not supposed to ask what to do, but you're the only person that I really resonate with nowadays. And so,
I don't think it's about presenting the problem and then asking for a solution to the problem. I think it's about recognizing what problems are arising within you, and because the problem, the precise problem with the self-help stuff is that it takes you on wild goose chases of doing a bunch of things, and those doing that remove one from themselves. And so if one does not want to waste their time, and one doesn't not want to waste their life, if they feel that they are wasting their life or their time, then even that thought, even that desire, even that recognition that what am I doing or wasting my time, and I think that's a pretty big thing, because I don't think that happens to a lot of people, and so the truth has to kind of evolve like a dance with someone. It has to evolve with the person, within their own personal journey with the truth, between them and the truth, and how it evolves is different for everyone. But what I can say, the fact that those questions are arising tend to come from a powerful place.
can I say one more thing?
Yeah.
Even with the self-help stuff and now your writings, I have a lot of apprehension. I don't know how to put it. Like, I don't trust myself almost. And that, I mean, I can kind of like tap into an emotion and try and figure out what I would want to do. But even then, I don't really like think it's going to work. Like this truth, like I know there's the truth, but like, I don't even know where I would. And like, I feel like my time it just slips away so easily. Because I work a lot and
I'm not sure what you're asking.
I don't. Because I'm really tired sometimes, and like I just kind of want something immediate so that I don't have to, because God knows when I'm gonna come back, because I'm 18 now, and like I feel like my entire life has slipped by, and like I'm just gonna like blink and I'm gonna be 30 and old.
So what's your question?
Is there something you can say to I don't know. It almost sounds like I'm asking for a motivational speech. I don't know how to explain it.
Okay. Well, good luck.
Thank you.
I hope you can hear me. I'm audible. I have been an avid follower of your work, and I have also for years now, and I have experienced many transformations in my area of work as an entrepreneur. Many truths have come to pass, and first and foremost, many thanks to you for the shared work that you have had on your site. It has been fundamental in enabling me for the success of many things that I would have never met if it was not for your work. Not success per se, but in the sense of realization. And my question would be, I have realized in my personal life, I back to certain habits over time. But as I have listened to your work, the time that it takes to default back to what you would call worldly, or just the habits of being the typical person, or being nominal, or what would be the state of just living to see the day go by. And I noticed that it plagues me with a lot of confusion. Especially this happens when I separate myself from your work. And this is not an intentional thing, but it is a life thing where family gets in the way, activities bug you. And I just wanted to understand a bit of that.
Well, basically, the majority exposure in a human being's life is what enters his being, and the majority exposure for every single human being on Earth is the world and society, and all of the stuff. And so, if there's no competing influence for that, if there's no other loudspeaker besides the loudspeaker of the world, then one becomes the world, and there's no fresh air to enter that stagnant room. So if there's no competing influence, if there's nothing, it's kind of like the person who goes and trains very heavily and then they never get worked on their body to get all the tension out, so to speak. So however one's body gets assaulted through training and through heavy workouts or sports routines or whatever it is, then that has to be undone, right, to some degree, in order to lessen or to ease up on the traumatic effect of that training upon the body. In the same way here, the world is a trauma. It's nothing but trauma. And so the human being just lives his life constantly getting assaulted and without ever getting a break from the assault. And so that's why I say it's always about exposure. And whatever one is most continually exposed to is that which he becomes, period. And so when one moves away from truth, not that they shouldn't or they should, whatever, but when they do, for whatever reason, they move away from truth, and then once again, the exposure to the world was already at 99%. And when they had the 1% of truth, 1% of their time was going towards truth. And then when the further they move from that, then the world becomes 100%. So it's just math in many ways. So if one recognizes it, and if truth happens to resonate with them, not that it should, but if it does happen to resonate with them, then the greater exposure to that provides a greater protection against the assaults from the world, which he is getting every single day.
One has to have, there's a certain kind of DNA that one needs to have to become maybe a master in his domain. And so I have two questions in there. There's also a domain dependence of mastery. So for example, Tiger Woods or Musashi, they would have a hockey stick or a sword that they would practice with every day. But let's say a modern day worker, a knowledge worker, a programmer, or a musician, he has to kind of ride a wave that keeps changing. So his practice has to be kind of different. So first, the practice, what kind of practice is needed on a domain that keeps changing? And is there a need of DNA in there, or can this type of practice override the lack of DNA? If you could shed some light on that, that would be great. Thank you.
I think that your sensibilities are too much in the mechanical domain of practice and not really understanding DNA.
To ask that is the only way through? I keep on seeing so many people talking about the value of easy living, but is it only through struggle that we can achieve meaning, or is it that through easy living and through
I have no idea what you mean by meaning. I mean, these are like spiritual words, and they're self-help words. I mean, you sound so far with the words that you have used, you sound like you're bringing your garbage dumpster of self-help and you're dumping it in my lap and then asking me to sift through it.
Yeah, I mean to say the meaning of life is what people talk about, the feeling of satisfaction.
The people can talk about whatever they want. What are you talking about? What's your question?
The feeling of satisfaction, I mean, where I'm just content with where I am. So can it be only achieved through basically through the hardships and coming on the other side, or can it be achieved?
What do you really want to ask? Don't dress it up.
Can I be content without struggle?
That's too general. That's a trivial pursuit question. Ask what you want to ask.
Do I need money to be happy? Because I do want to achieve these things, but I also know that at some point they don't give me that much happiness.
Well, this is the problem. You see, I think I'm not picking on you. I'm using you just as an example of how society bastardizes perfectly good human beings. You see, first you asked meaning of life, then you asked something about meaning in life, then you said, do you have to have struggle to have contentment? Then you said, do you have to earn money to be happy? You see, you don't have a well-formed question. And it isn't that it's not properly scripted. That's not what I mean by well-formed. You don't know what you're asking. And if you pose those questions to the experts, they'll go on for an hour and they'll tell you their books and all this stuff about happiness. They love those words, the meaning of life and meaning and purpose and happiness. And like, to me, I don't have any value for those things. It is, what is one's question? And in order to have a question, you see, I knew that I didn't have a question. And the reason I knew that was because your first 7 words, they were from the self-help books and the spirituality. And I'm not blaming you for that, but what I am saying is that until you've been in my work for a while, not that you should, but if you have to kind of cleanse yourself of those things, even to be ready to ask a question. Not that you have to progress in any way. I'm just saying that if you don't, then you'll just be asking more self-help stuff. And I'm not the guy for that. And if somebody likes self-help, that's fine. But they've come into the wrong domain for that because I have no value for those things.
The two biggest points where I want to arrive in my life is interior wellness, to have peace in my soul, and exterior wellness, to be materially secure and not being assaulted by this world. Generally, I want the interior solidness and material solidness, and I feel like I don't even feel like I became very solid inside. I have peace in my life now that I never had in my life, even though the situation is the worst that I had because I live in a war zone. But sometimes this peace does not transition to my material life. I still feel like for the heights that I reached with my understanding, somehow I should be more successful materially, but I am really not. I am doing okay, but I'm not.
So what's your question?
What is the truth? Do you have the lines of the truth that show what is the truth behind the material wellness?
How am I going to go into that? I could talk for 3 hours about that. I mean, that's not a pointed question. I've done a whole bunch of direct truth podcasts about success and money and contentment and peace and all kinds of things. So, I mean, you should. That's why I put those things out there, because I felt like there was something to say. So, if you want, you can explore those.
Okay, thank you.
Is the belief of right and wrong, like the core belief, is that the root of most anxiety, depression, and problems in our?
I don't think that you can. I don't think you can narrow it down to that. I mean, it's I think it's about holistic understanding. So I think if you pin everything down to one thing, it then depends upon how you perceive that one thing, and it may not be that one thing. So everything contributes to everything. So yeah, belief in right and wrong, or belief in good and bad, belief in all kinds of things. They're all kind of interlinked. It just depends upon one's word choices and how one defines things, how one perceives things in their own way. But yeah, the right and the wrong and the good and the bad, a lot of these things are sort of societal definitions and societal concepts, and they tend only to serve themselves. They don't really serve human beings.
Hello, Kapil. Thank you for all your work. You shared some deep insights when you answered the first question, and my question relates to something very related to that question. I don't know if there's an answer to this, but perhaps from your experience in guiding other individuals to the truth, you might share some similar experience. So once an individual in this case me, sees the truth, everything seems empty and pointless. And this is really burning, eating me alive. What propels one to get out of bed anymore? Is this something that you have observed?
No, that's the different. That's what I was saying. It was different for everybody. For some people, it might increase their motivation. For some people, it might increase their ambition. For other people, it may say, well, what's the point? So there's no predicting things, and that's why I also say the truth should not be taken lightly. And so I don't recommend it to anybody. One should only do it if their heart is really into it and they're really resonate with it. There's no way to know, like I said, how it's going to hit a particular individual, how it's going to come across to them. So I can't predict, and I can't say that, how it will hit a particular person. So if one says, well, what's the point of anything? Then, I'm not here to tell you that you should follow the truth, and then the next day or whatever later on, it makes you feel like, why should I do anything? And that's between you and you. That's between you and the truth. I just write the truth. I don't try to say this is what anybody should do. And in fact, I probably go out of my way to say that you shouldn't do it. Just everything is an interaction between the human being and the words. And the words don't say that you should do this or that. One has to be, have agency over themselves. I'm not here to like guide anybody towards anywhere. I'm not here to like tell you that this is the way you should go. Just understand that the truth is a very powerful thing. It isn't light, and it can absolutely transform the human life. But whose life it transforms and in what way is not predictable.